Yo, what's up everyone, Swillow here, and today we have our next character guide, Tashigi. So Tashigi has changed dramatically from Pirate Warriors 3. A lot of you already know what's up. Her changes, some of them are rather unfortunate. However, she is one of my most played characters, and I've been making the greatest effort ever to just try to understand the changes and how to play her most effectively within this game's engine. So let's get right into this. First up, we got special moves. Let's go over her special moves real quick. Wind, Cloud, and Flowers, her full force burst. For her, like pretty much every character in this game, full force burst is very effective and powerful to her game plan. It's going to increase her speed so that she can generate R1s faster, which is very important for her. It's also going to lower her stamina usage, which is extremely strong for movement and dealing pressure, like pressuring enemies with non-stop attacks. Next up, we have Cutting Mist. Charge forward quickly and slice through enemies before you. Now, this is one of her two Muso specials. Cutting Mist is... It was underwhelming in Pirate Warriors 3, and it's still pretty underwhelming here. The damage on it can be kind of okay, but the hitbox on it is so... It's so linear and specific that it's just usually not worth it. Next up, Odoriferous Butterfly. Did I say that right? Slash enemies in front with innumerable slashes. This move is probably her single best R1 option. This is her other Muso special. This was her level 2 special in Pirate Warriors 3, and this move is super good. Amazing crowd control, amazing damage, amazing armor break, amazing everything. This is honestly just a top R1 attack throughout this whole game. It's a really good move. Definitely you want to use this move as freely and often as possible, as it's really important to amping up her damage output considerably. Light Mist Feint. Sweeps away enemies in front with a draw and cut attack. This is another one of her best moves. It's amazing. This was her forward R1 in Pirate Warriors 3, which was like her notorious dash slash, which led to a lot of her movement and cancel techniques. Now in this game, the movement and cancel abilities off of it are pretty much non-existent, and what matters now is the damage. This move hits extremely hard. It's fast, it hits for a lot of damage, extremely powerful. So between Light Mist Feint and this move, you're going to be generating a lot of burst damage with her. Light Mist Moonlight. Adopt a sword stance, gather power, then unleashes a forward thrust. So this move right here, this used to be her triangle square, I believe, in Pirate Warriors 3. You know, like, it can hit a huge crowd, but the damage output is rather underwhelming. Like, even though it feels geared towards taking out crowds, it usually doesn't deal enough damage to actually kill them, which kind of makes it pointless. So I don't know, I really just don't feel like this is a great move. Like, it seems great at first appearance because of how many enemies it can hit, but the damage is just not there. Lightness Spring. Hit the ground with your scabbard to launch enemies. So this was her R1, her neutral R1 when you were in the middle of attacking in Pirate Warriors 3, and she would do her Scabbard Slam, which basically acted as like a reset cancel type situation. This move is not as effective in this game. She can't use it in the air, which is a little confusing. I feel like if she could use this in the air, it would actually be kind of a good move. But as it stands here, it's just like a decent area and damage option. Like, only decent though. Not as strong as other moves that I've already talked about. You know, it works, it's functional, it's one of the moves that you could probably bring with you. It just kind of depends on preference, to be honest. Light Mist Floating Cloud. Move forward at high speed and unleash a succession of slices. Now, this was her infamous best move in Pirate Warriors 2, or not 2, but 3. It was her square triangle. This move was so great in Pirate Warriors 3 because it dealt huge damage. You had invincibility frames, had decent crowd control. In this game, the damage has been toned down dramatically. The damage pretty much only also kicks in on the final hit as well, so all the hits leading up to the final hit are very low damage, and you really have to land the final hit for this move to have serious value. Overall, it's still good because it hits a decent area. I actually think the hitbox might be a little bit bigger here, but it's also important because this game just has bigger maps and stuff in general, so it's appropriate for this game. You still have the invincibility frames. The damage output, however, is so low that it's just not the strong option it was in Pirate Warriors 3. Skill-wise. So skill-wise, Tashigi being a speed type, you're going to want to focus on damage. You want to bring strong damage options. So what you're going to want to do is usually just put the usual. This is a very expected loadout. I have Cheat Death, mandatory. I feel this is pretty much a mandatory skill in this game. Airborne Adept. This is a pretty solid option for her. Like, this is definitely something you could switch out based on preference, but she does have the ability to set up strong damage output on juggled enemies. Hero Strength. This is going to increase your attack for 3 seconds after a certain number of enemies are defeated. You know, this is starting to become another mandatory skill, I feel, at least in terms of like dealing damage. She's able to use her Muso special to get Hero Strength up pretty effectively. Full Force Burst Enhancement, another pretty mandatory skill. This is going to up your damage in Full Force Burst, Resilience, increase the duration of Full Force Burst, and Concentration. This is another skill that can be kind of preference-like, but I think it's really important for her because her gameplay revolves around R1 so much that you're going to want to be generating that meter quickly and effectively, and Concentration is going to help you do that. Alright, so let's get in here. Let's show off her moves. So first we have Square Triangle. So this is her launcher. It's nowhere near as good in this game as it was in Pirate Warriors 3. In Pirate Warriors 3, it was really good for just taking yourself out of danger, and you could also cancel into R1s or other moves to bring yourself back to the ground. You can no longer do that here. You can cancel into some R1s, but the setups are very limited and not that strong in my opinion. There's definitely better ways to get into your air options. So this move just unfortunately isn't that strong in this game. It also doesn't go as high. It doesn't last as long as it did in Pirate Warriors 3. A very weak move, I would say. Alright, so next up we have Square Square Triangle. So this move will leave enemies in a sort of crippled state in front of you. It's not amazing, but it's pretty solid for keeping enemies in a perfect setup to follow up with a variety of moves. So, you know, you could do something like Square Square Triangle into that. You know, that's a quick burst of damage. You could do Square Square Triangle and Jump Cancel to go into an air option. No, it's just a good move for... The move itself is not good. However, it gives you potential to follow up with moves that are good. That's basically how you're going to use it. So then we have Square 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 Triangle, Square times 3 into Triangle. This is your crowd control option. It's going to be good for generating R1s. So you can use it in a big crowd like this. You'll hit a lot of enemies. You'll build your R1s up very quickly and effectively. So that's its main utility. It's not very strong, but it's great for generating R1s. Next we have Square times 4 into Triangle. So this is a projectile, right? This move changed a lot from 3. In 3, it used to go slower and it didn't go as far. So it was amazing for following up and setting up combos. In this game, it moves a lot faster. It goes way farther. It's very difficult to set up into other moves. So, but it's pretty much good for generating enemies, or generating R1 and just keeping enemies kind of immobilized, I guess you could say. Like, it's a decent crowd control option, even though it only hits linear and in front of her. Overall, it's like one of her better strings, but I don't think it's as good as it was in Pirate Warriors 3. So Square times 5 into Triangle. Square times 5 into Triangle it's a Scabbard Slam. She has an R1 skill that's like the same thing. She basically just has like this move twice. It's in her string and it has an R1 move. It's a decent damage and crowd control option. Nothing really special to say about it. Like, it's an alternative to using Square times 3 into Triangle as a crowd control in an R1 generator. Okay, so Square times 6 into Triangle. So this move is honestly one of her best charge attacks. Obviously the downside to it is you have to get into the 6th hit of her string, and sometimes just using later charges is a bit difficult, but it's really good. So some of the main reasons it's good, you know, okay damage and armor break, but it also gives you good setup. So if you watch the enemies, you see they launch and fall right in front of you. So this, similar to square square triangle, this is going to give you all the setup potential in the world. You know, you can jump cancel, go into R1s, do whatever. So let's do this. Let's jump cancel, triangle, go into this. So as you see there, we were able to do like a very nice sequence of attacks there off of that move. So it's really good for setting up. You know, it not only is the damage actually good in terms of like her charge attacks in general, but it's also really good for setting up into other kind of combos and damage. So now square times 7 into triangle. So once again, I don't know why, but she has like moves twice, right? Like she has an R1 that's similar to this, you know, that was her triangle square. So she has this thrust option pretty much twice. And this is also all the more reason not to even bring the R1 version of this move, because the actual string version of this move is a little bit better, I feel. But it's still not even a great option. Like the damage is not as good. The crowd control is not as good. Like I would use square times 6 into triangle almost all the time. However, square times 7 into triangle will be better if you're just like trying to maximize like pure damage output, especially on a single target. It's particularly good for that, like usually gonna break armor by the time you get to that. It's very difficult to follow up after though, because of the launch effect. So it's best to use it when you're near a wall, in a type of corner or something, so that you can maintain pressure more easily. Next up, triangle. Neutral triangle. Didn't even hit. So let me try to hit something with this. Just like in Pirate Warriors 3, this move was a big gimmick. It doesn't deal enough damage for how long it takes to charge. You see it's slow, it doesn't have a lot of range. The range on it is pathetic. It's not a good move. It's nothing but a flex. It's basically like a taunt that just happens to do damage as well. There's not good ways to set up into it either. The enemies, you know, you can break an enemy's armor, and then you can try to use it, but they can burst before you finish. Like the only real way to guarantee it is if you knock the enemy unconscious first, which is really difficult because you have to like actually break all the shields under their health bar in order to knock them unconscious. Usually you end up killing them before that happens. But if you're ever going to have hopes of landing it, you'll have to do that. You'll have to knock the enemy unconscious. Next up we have air attacks. So jump square. Let me try to hit some enemies with it. So jump square is just a simple horizontal slash. It's gonna knock enemies it's gonna launch enemies away. It's a little bit difficult to follow up after, so this is normally better to use sort of as a finisher or anything you don't plan to follow up after, unless you're gonna use like a power dash. You could use an extended power dash to catch up to the enemies. But besides that, your R1s are normally gonna whiff in most cases. Let me try to show that off. So you can see like my R1s don't really get close enough to actually hit. Let me get my attack back. Alright, so next up we have jump triangle. Jump triangle, not as strong as jump square, but it has a much better hitbox, and it has much better setup potential. So when you hit enemies with it, it's gonna bounce them into and off the ground, which leads to pretty much any option. The bounce, okay, so if you saw there, sometimes the bounce can be a little bit awkward, which doesn't give you perfect follow-up. But in most cases, you're gonna get like a good follow-up after it. and you can go into her R1s or go into dash cancel setups. Now, one of the best things about her air attacks is using them against enemies with armor. Against enemies with armor who won't get launched, these moves actually deal pretty good armor break damage and damage in general, and you can actually kind of repeatedly dash cancel these to take out enemies pretty quickly. So let me try to show it on Mihawk here. I'm basically just going to spam like my jump triangle. So you saw how much damage, like how quickly I broke his armor, and relatively safely as well. So it took him down. So her air attacks tend to be strongest against armored enemies because you're not going to launch them all these weird trajectories, and you're going to be able to just keep repeatedly hitting them over and over and over in quick succession to deal amazing damage and armor damage. We kind of try to show it off. So you see, I was able to kill him just spamming the triangle and the dash cancel. So there you go. Her air attacks are pretty strong, but you have to know how to. You have to like get used to using them, like making sure that you don't overshoot or you don't whiff or stuff like that. But they're actually pretty strong to just repeatedly spam on enemies' armor, and you can get like good juggle follow-ups through dash cancels as long as you position yourself. You get the right distance and all that stuff. So I would say that's pretty much it in terms of Tashigi. Her main playstyle is R1s. Her R1s are where all her damage are, her damages, her crowd control, everything. Like, so you're gonna use her square. You're gonna use her square string. You're gonna use her triangle string to help generate R1 so that you can get into her strongest options. And that's pretty much her game plan. Her normal attacks just aren't that strong in this game to really like have a lot of value besides generating R1. And usually for her, like just spamming the square string is gonna be like your main deal against most enemies. Like sometimes you're not even gonna use actual charge attacks because just spamming her square string like this is usually strong enough to get the job done and generate R1s. So that's pretty much it. If y'all have any questions, leave a comment. I hope this guide was helpful for you. Yo, Tashigi got nerfed so hard in this game, but we still stand the queen. She is still the waifu. She's still the queen. I'm still gonna play her. They can try to stop me, but they can't.